Mr. Paul Freeborn from Mekong, following up on the Nepalese presentation here. Again, we'll give you the 5-minute kind of warning from the backside there, but feel free, and the stage is all yours, sir.
All right, thank you for coming. As you mentioned, I teach right now at Mekong. Before I started teaching at Mekong, I was teaching in the study abroad course at Konan University. That's where I first met Randy, and he started talking to me about the THT Nepal program. Come on, come on, come on. I can't do it this year. And the next year, come on, come on, come on. Okay, fine, I'll go. And it turned out to be a great experience. So I'm glad I finally got persuaded to attend. So I'm going to talk more specifically about the program I attended in 2017. So I'll give you a more detailed breakdown on the kinds of activities we did that year. As Randy said, there's some variation. I say year to year, but even workshop to workshop. It kind of depends on the situation, but this will give you an archetype and tell you some of the kinds of things that are likely to happen and where you might find the need to be flexible. So an overview for today, what is teaching? I'm going to go through that very quickly since Randy already covered that. Then into a more detailed explanation of the 2017 program, including NELTA, the local workshops, and some takeaways, some things that we learned, and some things we'd like to try and build towards in the future. Finally, more of the people and places, sightseeing, and it says 2018 program information, so it should be 2019. Unfortunately, NELTA has not decided, or at least is not published on the internet, their 2019 dates yet, so I don't know when those deadlines are, but I'll explain more about that in a minute. So Teachers Helping Teachers is a JALT special interest group. Again, Randy explained about this, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details. There are several programs. I know the Kyrgyzstan program is in September. Some former coworkers are involved in that program, so I know about that one. The Philippines has a program that is on hiatus at the moment. And again, these other web programs have a website that you can check for more information. But the main purpose to aid and assist fellow educators, teacher training conferences, seminars and workshops, and working with teachers all the way from elementary school to the university level. The THT Nepal program, we actually had two groups in 2017. One was a young learners group, which was focused primarily on elementary school students, and they did a couple workshops in and around the Kathmandu area. I call this the ageless group. I was a part of this, and you might recognize Randy here. The reason I say ageless is theoretically we were going for the prime for the older students, but as a matter of practicality, we had elementary school teachers, we had junior high school and high school teachers, we had a guy from a military academy, I guess, at one of our workshops. So we had a wide range of teachers, or a wide range of teaching situations for the teachers we work with. Okay, so the 2017 program, NELTA began on February 26th, and our last workshop ended on March 6th. So that gives you the time frame. The NELTA conference will float around, but it's generally the end of February, beginning of March is when the Nepal program is run. The NELTA conference, and Randy explained, NELTA is kind of the Nepal equivalent of JALT. In 2017, it was held at the Premier International School. Students from all over the world were kind of there, and these are elementary and junior high school students, and they were the facilitators and guides at the conference. NELTA, again, like any other major international conference, but we had a wider variety of perspectives in the sense of, when I've been to the JALT National Conference, there's international participants, but 90% of the presenters are coming from local Japanese universities. Nepal, we had presentations from, there was no dominant, it wasn't mostly Nepali presenters, it was a mix of people from Bangladesh, Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, just all different countries, so real wide spread of presenters and topics. One topic that I remember that I don't think we necessarily see here in Japan, but there were some two women from Bangladesh who were presenting about graded readers. Extensive reading was one of the things they were talking about. One of the issues was all of the graded readers were coming out of the West, coming from US, UK, and talking about cultural things that weren't necessarily identifiable for people from Bangladesh. So they were taking their students and trying to transcribe Bangladeshi stories and tales into graded readers that would be more approachable for their students. So that was something that I thought, okay, that's something I might not see in a different conference. And as Randy said, we gear the program so that if you're participating, you will have in the THT program, you'll have the chance to present at NELTA to give yourself a professional development opportunity there as well. The NELTA 2019 dates and deadlines, they're not available yet. I checked the internet last night to see if I could update this, and they're not posted yet. So please keep checking the website. They post information as it becomes available. Contact from NELTA can be slow and confusing at times, but don't worry too much. They usually do get back to you. Sometimes the answer makes you a little bit nervous until you actually go there and find out that everything's okay. An example, I was trying to register for the conference from Japan, and I didn't get a response, and then, oh, just pay when you get here. Okay. So I went to Nepal, I went to the hotel, I showed up at the conference, and just like everybody else, I paid and went in, and that was situation normal. So I guess living in Japan, we get used to things being, very organized and very well informed ahead of time, and suddenly you're in a place where things are more, make it up as you go along. But like I said, don't worry, they do work things out, just you may not know how it's going to work out until you get there. Okay, after the NELTA conference, we went to 3 regional cities to conduct our workshops. The first workshop we held at Pokhara, and this was a major city. Pokhara is one of the jumping off points for the trekkers and the backpackers who are going to go hiking around in the Himalayas. So there's a fair amount of international traffic and businesses catering to people in terms of restaurants and services. The Nepali teachers that we worked with came from a variety of situations, mostly junior high school and high school, but I think the gentleman I mentioned who was a teacher at the military academy, he was at this workshop. Some of the teachers, one day when we were having lunch, I was speaking with one of the teachers. He said he'd been traveling for 8 hours that day. He got up at like 4 in the morning or whatever so he could make the afternoon session at the conference. So gave me a little bit of perspective to the hardship that they were going through to get to. I mean, it wasn't JALT National or TESOL International Conference. This was our workshop in Pokhara, and they were actually, I mean, that was quite an effort just to come to our session. So. Okay, at the Pokhara workshop, practical activities were enthusiastically received, things that they could do in the classroom, things that they could see, okay, this is what I can do in the classroom. Flexibility was a virtue, or as Randy mentioned, kind of a necessity. In other words, it has to be or I shouldn't say it has to be, but the activities are going to be most useful if it's something they can employ in a variety of teachings that they may not have a PowerPoint. So something that is restricted to internet may or may not be so useful. Although, having said that, internet access is more common than I expected, even though it's primarily through the phone. I shouldn't say primarily, more often through the phone than through a PC. But the number of iPhones was actually, I was surprised how common they were. Probably the most widely, the most popular workshop in terms of what the Nepali teachers received was one from one of our coworkers, Shri, who teaches in Akita. And it used their textbook, and basically it got the teachers to kind of reevaluate what they were doing with vocabulary. Instead of focusing on these hard, rare, low-frequency words, focus the students' attention on high-frequency vocabulary. That's the vocabulary that the students should be building, because that's the stuff that they're going to use most often and make the most benefit with. And after doing a couple exercises with this, the teachers were, oh wow, I never thought of that. And so they all went out of that workshop talking about how they're going to focus on this the next time they use their textbook. Okay. Shanja, this was the most rural location of the workshops we went to in 2017. There was a scheduling mix-up where our group wound up double booked. One day in Pokhara, one day in Shanja. This is where we're saying you have to be flexible. What happened was Randy got kidnapped and taken to Shanja to do a solo act, while the rest of us stayed and did our second day in Pokhara. So Randy had done some joint activities with a couple of the local JICA, which is kind of the Japanese version of the Peace Corps in the United States. And I have something to add about that in just a moment, but this particular group of teachers mostly worked with elementary school students. This was where I said we usually work with junior high school and high school, well, except for Shanja, we had a different demographic. Okay, this is where I learned the things we think would be easy to implement in a classroom. You don't need any materials, you don't need technology. I had taken Paul Nation's 532 activity, which is a speak for 5 minutes, switch to a new partner, speak for 4 minutes, switch to new. Don't need technology, don't need a lot of equipment. This would be easy for any teacher to do, right? Well, after I gave my presentation, they, oh, that was great. We can't do it in class, our classes are too small. Oh, okay, well, wait, what about on the playground? Go outside and do it on the playground. Oh, no, it's a class. We have to do it in the room. Our principal would be very upset with it, us if we went outside. So, one of the things I learned from that is the key to the workshops is to find activities that give the Nepali teachers ideas that they can try and adapt to their own situation. It's impossible to know the challenges that everybody who is teaching is going to be facing, but give them a variety of activities that might help spark them to think of some way to adapt or use an idea in their own way. Needs versus expectations. Back to the JICA workers for a minute. The day Randy had done his solo teaching, one of the JICA workers had given a workshop on like basic hygiene, brushing teeth and things like that. When we did our feedback sessions, one of the comments was, we would like more, or I would like more information about brushing, how to brush our teeth and how to do these other things. So it just shows you that we're going to go in there and teach them how to teach English and change it. It's a different setting for the people on the ground there. So again, present the information and try and make it useful and as flexible as possible for them, but their own situation is going to dictate what the key takeaways for them might be. And then, as I said, with Randy's sudden change in schedule, Shanja was also where we had to change on the fly. Tansan-Palpa, our last city, Tansan-Palpa was a small regional center. I think it was kind of like a honeymoon center or something. It was a small city, bigger than Shanja, but a little bit more, it had a pretty nice luxury hotel. This was the most organized of the workshops because of the scheduling confusion in Shanja. We actually had an extra day in Tansan-Palpa. So we had a chance to sit down with the local organizers the day before and work out the schedule for the 2-day workshop. So for that reason, it was a little bit more organized than the previous workshops. And this was a bit like POCA. It had a diverse group of teachers, mostly teaching at the junior high school and high school level, but some elementary school teachers as well. This is where we had a Nepali presenter also joined our group. So he was the kind of like the head of the Board of Education, or somehow involved with the Board of Education, Mr. Gopal. The workshops went a little bit smoother, and again, we've been through them a few times by this point. We also had a chance to plan the sessions with the organizers, and we had gotten used to the idea of changing things up as we went. Because we had a less compressed time frame than we had in Pokhara or in Shanghai, we were able to give more discussion time and let the participants talk things out and work in groups to discuss, okay, how can I adapt this to my classroom situation? Okay, some of our takeaways for 2017. We would like to increase the participation by local Nepali educators. Look for ways to coordinate with other organizations like JICA. I mentioned the woman who taught the health class and showed us that maybe it's not all just teaching needs. Focus on practical and activity-based workshops, and improve communication and coordination with Delta, so hopefully we don't get double booked, but that's always going to be a continuing work in progress, I guess. For people who are interested in going, some thoughts on workshops. Again, the workshops that were the most popular had clear classroom implications. They were flexible. They could be adapted to a variety of different teaching situations. They utilized readily available resources. As Randy said, if you look at some of those classrooms and your cool internet research activity, which would be great in Japan, the students just may not have the ability to implement that in Nepal. And then again, I mentioned the high frequency vocabulary. Randy had given a demonstration on how to use the silent way to count numbers in Japanese. So something that they can implement directly in the classroom without needing a lot of specialized resources. Even some games like how to get the students to match with different partners, or how to choose next student to stand up and speak and give an answer. The teachers enjoyed learning new ways to do that. Okay, other considerations. Again, limited resources. I mentioned computers. There's just not a lot of graded readers, so if your idea is a big extensive reading program, the schools may not have access to the graded readers to do that. Many of the participants may not be prepared for highly theoretical research presentations. Not all of those teachers have had formal teacher training, so if you're going to talk about crashing and I+1 and comprehensible input, they may not have a pedagogical framework in which to put that information. Internet access, again, I mentioned this earlier, but it's more common than I expected, but often it's going to be through a phone rather than a computer. So how easy it's going to be to do heavy research projects on that is that's an open question. Okay. The rest of it I have is some sightseeing, but we're running low on time, so I'm going to skip that. You also already saw some pictures from Randy about the different things you can see in Nepal. But like I said, it was a very rewarding experience. Opened my eyes as to, here we are in Japan with all the graded readers we want, all the computer technology we want, and we have our complaints about teaching situation, and then I go to Nepal and I saw what some of them were facing, and maybe I better stop dwelling on my issues so much and recognize that we've got it pretty good in terms of the resources and teaching environment here. Not that none of us have a situation without any challenges ourselves. Okay, so just to skip towards the end, again, some ways to get involved. You've already seen Randy's phone number, or Randy's email, excuse me. Here's my email. If you are going to be traveling to Nepal just for sightseeing or to visit or to climb a mountain, please bring along a book. There's an organization, bringbooks.org. You can find out about that. You can donate it at the airport. And as Randy said, a lot of those, the entire library of a book is, or the entire library of some of those schools is smaller than a bookshelf in most homes. So any books are valuable resources. The Nepal Friends and Family Project and Sasane, which Randy mentioned, is one of the women traffic organizations designed to prevent or rescue people from human trafficking, and there's some information on there. Sorry for the speedy wrap up, but I'll go ahead and finish there. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it. And Randy, you have more up-to-date information, please go ahead and jump in.
Wow. Paul, thank you very much. That was great. Absolutely, though, the floor is open for questions.
Sorry, I kind of rushed there.
Yeah, do you have access to your, on Facebook, to your photographs?
Yeah, I don't know if I have the internet up here, but I have a Facebook, my hobby is photography, so one of the reasons I got into THT Nepal was a chance to go to Nepal with my camera and take some pictures.
I'm not trying to coerce you into opening up your own Facebook, but if you want to, we do have internet, if you want me to.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get you.
Anyway,
just open up your Chrome again.
Very professional pictures, much better than the ones I've read.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, those were the ones, sorry, the ones I sped through. Running out of time, yeah.
If you do want to log in, you're welcome to, but
Yeah, now I'm trying to remember my password.
or if it doesn't work, right, then we can.
Can I hide this when I hit in my password?
Oh yeah.
No. So you get your password.
Where's my? I'd like to.
Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and just go through these real quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
That'll work too.
If you notice that one where you saw the Nepalese dancing,
Oh, I saw the little monkey. I liked it.
but one that was a break between sessions, and somebody had
Oh,
some music.
yes. Sorry, I did see that. Yeah,
Oh,
that was really
Just
nice.
spontaneous,
Yeah, that was
started
lovely.
dancing.
Yeah.
And the music was, so the women had started, singing. I guess it was a song of appreciation is what they told us, and these guys got up and started dancing. One of our presenters was at Canadian Academy, which was part of the International Baccalaureate, and she was a PE teacher. So a lot of her workshops were stand up, move around, be active, and so they kind of like that. And this kind of fit in with that, but as Randy said, this was spontaneous. We were just sitting there, and suddenly during the break, they were dancing.
One of the presenters was from New Zealand, and she also started up and sang a Maori song. They were just very relaxed.
So, yeah, this was Kathmandu, which was the big city. This is the main Hindu temple, Pashupati temple. I don't have a picture of it, but if you look left about 100 meters, that's where they do the cremations when for people who passed away. Some of the streets in Kathmandu get pretty crowded, and you can see just the variety. You've got the pedicab, you've got the regular car, you've got people walking, and I'm standing there, and it's from me to the front row, and everything's fit onto this street, just really jumbled together. Living close to nature, so you go up to the monkey temple, and that's where you get the monkey. And then, of course, because of the Hindu culture, there's cows around which have kind of the right of way. I was trying to go home. This green sign, that's my hotel. The cows are kind of blocking the way, and so the car's just sitting there, the driver's just waiting for the cows to clear the way, but it took their time. Pokhara, these were just some boats I thought were pretty nice. So the Himalayas, I wanted to see the Himalayas, the mountains.
No, I like that boat photo. It's nice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was nice, but we got up at 5 in the morning to go to the special site to see the Himalayas in Pokhara. That's what we got.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's there, yeah.
So, okay, Pokhara we struck out. Then we went to Sharjah, which was a country, I loved Sharjah. The night we were in Sharjah, we wound up having dinner. The electricity went off, which was not a rare occurrence. They had the candles ready, so the electricity went out at the restaurant. They brought out the candles, and we continued eating and talking by candlelight. It was clearly the most rural town, but again, they told us, oh yeah, on a clear day you can see the Himalayas from here, and not today though. So, struck out on the Himalayas again. This was the morning we left, kind of a nice place. Tansen, Palpa, this was the kind of the resort town, and they had a carnival going on while we were there. Oh, this Ferris wheel is crazy fast. And it's like a thrill ride. Usually a Ferris wheel, come down, nice, relax, take your time. No, this thing's going. It's no way I'm getting on that. I go flying off over the mountain. But at the carnival, people were dressed up in costume. So this was this girl's wearing like a traditional Mongolian dress. Saw these girls, and they wanted me to take their picture, so I got their picture. The next day I was asking one of my Nepali guides, so what culture, what group are these people in? Oh, that's just their dance costume. They go to a dance school, and they were performing at the carnival, and but that's not a cultural dress. Randy gets along with everybody, and this young woman, she's holding a selfie stick, taking a picture. This was when Randy was talking about how they nod their head, and when I asked if I could take the picture, she gave me this, and my first, oh darn. Oh wait, that means yes. So, finally, the last day in Tansen, we were getting ready to go. Finally, I got to see the Himalayas from Tansen Palpa. So they've been shy, but they eventually showed up. Sorry. So those are some of the big pictures. Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha. We have the candles, and they don't want you taking pictures inside for obvious reasons. Okay, if you email me, you can access my Facebook photos, and there's more on there.
Paul, thank you very much. Thank you all very much. That concludes the end of this first panel here.